I've got a question. What is happening here? Why is Bitcoin going down and at the same time Worldcoin is outperforming massively? Where does the decoupling come from? Who is buying here? Let's have a look at the on-chain data, the data most people are not considering, to try to figure out how much longer this rally can last and if it still makes sense to buy Worldcoin right now. Now there are some news. 30 Seconds to Mars, so that's a music band, is cooperating with Worldcoin to issue tickets. The band announced to offer human-only ticket access in collaboration with Worldcoin. But that has happened already a few days ago. The rally, however, continues to last. Worldcoin continues to outperform the rest. So what's really driving all of this? Hi, my name is Gerhard. I've been in the crypto space for the last 8 years. I hit my first million 3 years ago. And in this video, I want to share the data points that I personally look at to decide, should we buy or sell a particular altcoin? Here is my track record over the last 2 years. This is when I started to publish my trades in real time. So we just hit a new all-time high despite the massive crypto crash. The current positions are blurred, but here is the trading history. Every single trade is logged and also has its entry and exit Telegram messages behind them. So you can verify everything. It's 100% transparent. For example, over here, this is when I entered a short for the Trump meme coin, and then subsequently I closed it. So that's then this message over here. That's when we closed the red valuation vault last year. So last year, the vault made annualized 44%. This year, we are on track to achieve the same. I'm sharing this just to be transparent because most people here on YouTube probably are not long-term winning traders. But what about Worldcoin? Should we buy into WLD now? Now, the product is very controversial. It offers a proof that you are human and that you're not publishing something, say, with artificial intelligence. People on Twitter are already wondering what's going on here with this WLD pump. But remember, one of the people behind Worldcoin is also the leader of OpenAI. This over here, that's the Worldcoin orb. This scans your iris, so your signature of your eye, to then prove that you are human. That data cannot be tampered with. By the way, I also have a Twitter account. In case you don't yet follow me on X, this here is the handle, @BitcoinStrat. So make sure you don't follow the wrong account. This here is the only legitimate account. I'm publishing content on various altcoins, but also on the crypto market as a whole. Now this chart here looks scary. This is the WLD token in US dollars on a logarithmic scale. Over the last 2.5 years, every rally brought us to a lower high and every dump brought us to a lower low. We are currently pumping and we are not yet at the upper end of the trading range, but once we are closer to the 80 cents mark, things could get a bit more dangerous. Now this chart still has quite some volatility, right? Some of those rallies are around 200%. Relative to the altcoin market though, so there's now WLD divided by the altcoin market cap, those rallies aren't as impressive anymore. There's only one over here with 115%. The vast majority of those pumps are very short-lived and then they turn around. This rally was 230%. The recent one was 113 roughly. The current one is also in the 130 mark. We are again not yet at the resistance. That would imply another 50% of potential gains. Now, where does this underperformance come from? The answer, as so often, is token inflation. The demand for WLD does not grow as quickly as the supply. One of the incentives to get your iris scanned, so to do this action over here, it's actually to receive WLD tokens. So you're directly selling your data to Sam Altman. That is at least partially what creates the rising supply. But we've also got early investors and the developers that get more and more tokens over time. And they, of course, also offload some of their WLD over time, taking chips off the table. And so the price constantly goes lower, while the market cap itself is actually getting higher from one rally to the next. And that would imply that the current rally has at least another 2x from here, maybe even a 3x, if we are yet to see another all-time high, right? If we just connect those tops. Now, Worldcoin does not just offer this proof of identity, it also has its own chain, the World chain. Now, the World chain unfortunately doesn't see a lot of usage. So it's unlikely that it's going to be the growth driver of demand of WLD in the future. This is the TVL over time. It peaked at 100 million in September of last year. Now it's at 30 million, a 70% drop. Here we've got the decentralized exchange trading volume on World chain over time. It went to pretty much zero and now is coming up slightly again. Maybe because of arbitrage bots that are trading the tokens that are listed on Worldchain. Now what we see behind me, that's the number of retail investors on the Ethereum chain that hold WLD versus the number of whale investors. So the way we distinguish this is we need to have at least $1,000 worth of Worldcoin for the chart on the left, then it's 10,000 for the chart in the middle, and it's 100,000 for the chart on the right. So that's measured in the number of WLD, so 2,000, 20,000, 200,000 tokens. And we can see how the number of retail investors is going up constantly. The number of medium-sized investors as well, the number of whale investors isn't growing as steadily, but it also goes up. Now why are all of those numbers going up? Probably because of the token inflation again, not necessarily because people are buying Worldcoin. Now have a look at where the price discovery actually happens. On the spot market, we had roughly 200 million worth of trading volume. On the perpetual futures market, we had 1.3 billion. So most trading happens on the perps. Now, in the past, the funding rate was quite negative, and that meant market makers were incentivized to own the token. But they didn't do that. The price did not go up. Now the funding rate is a bit more balanced. What I think is the most important statistic though is this here. That's the open interest, or the amount of bets on the Worldcoin price. This is highly correlated with the price itself, and it tends to peak between 500 million and 900 million. It went up very sharply. It's currently at 500. And when it comes down, then the Worldcoin price tends to go down with it. And that's a big risk. When are we going to turn around again in open interest? Will this be now? Will this be at 900 million? Will this be maybe slightly above? Because again, open interest tend to go up from one rally to the next. Maybe the next open interest spike is at around 1 billion. So again, this implies a bit more upside, as we've already seen in the relative valuation chart. Maybe Worldcoin can go up by another 50% or so until the momentum turns around. That's actually my base case, because even the trading volume on the perpetual futures is not yet at an all-time high. We do have some hype around the asset, but it's not as significant as it used to be during prior similar kinds of rallies. Now, as usual, I have run a backtest to figure out what's the best trading strategy for Worldcoin. We're trying to find the best golden and death crosses. This time around, it's a 2-day and 46-day simple moving average. The outperformance is quite consistent, so here is that strategy measured in Worldcoin tokens over time. The alpha is roughly 150% per annum, and here is the live chart. In other words, we are still very much bearish. The 2-day SMA is way above the 46-day SMA. It is risky to now bet on falling prices. The asset first has to meaningfully turn around. And in the past, this was a good approach, right? For example, we could short Worldcoin at $1.30, and then we can close that, and the price fell by roughly 50%. So this does work, especially after those short squeezes, as we currently see. Here we've got to move from $8 all the way down to $1.56. That's why we run all of those back tests. It's an approach that historically worked very well for Worldcoin. Right now though, shorting Worldcoin at the current prices is very risky. The momentum is intact. We could see another rally. We are not yet at historically high open interest. And the charts also imply that another 50% is possible, potentially even 200%. That would be very surprising, but still, we don't want to be in an asset that currently still builds up leverage. And that's the current situation with Worldcoin. I've got a lot of experience with trades like this, right? Most of my trades are relative valuation shorts. So shorting Pengu relative to Bitcoin, shorting Luna Classic relative to Bitcoin, shorting Ton relative to Bitcoin. Most of my trades based on the strategy, and I very much like to use those best moving averages as well, right? So whenever we get the dev cross and we get an automatic notification, like over here when we shorted Luna Classic, you didn't want to short over here, right? You want to wait until the momentum clearly turns around. That was after the price has rallied for more than a month. And then subsequently, you want to close that position with the golden cross. That's what we did with Luna Classic in this case. And I think a very similar approach for Worldcoin makes sense as well. Momentum is positive. We could still buy, but if you're betting on the long side, then of course make sure that you've got a trailing stop loss. I personally don't bet on rising prices, especially in the current market. I rather bet with the general trend. And most of the time Worldcoin goes down, most of the time most altcoins go down versus Bitcoin. So I rather look for a short entry, and that will be once we get this dev cross. 46 versus 2-day. That's the magic indicator to watch. And if you want to get the notification when that hits, then feel free, of course, to subscribe to Premium. If you don't want to manually copy trade, there's also automatic copy trading. That's reserved though for the annual subscribers. All of the details are in the linked website down below. There's also a 7-day money back guarantee. So in case you don't like Premium, just message me within the first 7 days and I'll refund you, no questions asked. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish here regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time on YouTube, or see you in Premium, of course. That link pops up here on the screen. See you next time. Cheers.